Any more questions? We've got two over there.
Hello. I'm not sure if this is a question or more of a comment. I'm not sure exactly where it's going to lead to. But, and I've got to admit that I haven't actually read the Road to Wigan Pier or the Road to Wigan Pier Revisited. But, and maybe this is an assumption, and I know that in Orwell's day it's very interesting, the quote about the miners all having radios, even though they couldn't necessarily afford to feed their families. And I'm sure back then there were great disparities between the richest and the poorest in society. But unless I'm wrong, I assume that the majority of people did not aspire to own everything that the rich owned back then. Whereas now, because of the media and the way that celebrities are represented in the media is something to aspire to, and also advertising and advances in psychology and advertising, and it seems like the vast majority of people in society seem to be affected by this, and maybe there are some people who aren't, but people are sort of aspiring to lifestyles that are way beyond most of their means. And so, as well as people struggling to feed their families and people who are obviously living in poverty, you've got sort of respectable middle class or even upper class households who may have fallen into debt because they're trying to live beyond their means. And I would blame the banks and the financial institutions for this, as well as the advertisers. And then lastly, the people who might have done this when they knew, like at the back of their mind, it would take like decades to pay off the loans, and they might not be able to do that. But mainly, you know, it is the way that society's been making people think they have to do this. And then you don't necessarily see the poverty because it may be covered up, as was also mentioned. But another issue that wasn't really addressed tonight, and I think that probably since the financial crisis and the recession, it's been addressed more than it was before. It's been addressed a lot less before. It's sort of the environmental impact of all this consumerism. You know, we cannot ever in the future all live like celebrities, not just the UK but the whole world. We need about 20 planet Earths. So that can't be what we're aspiring to in the future. Do we actually want a future where everybody has a 4x4 and changes their phone every 6 months and their laptop every year and has all these material possessions, because we're going to destroy the planet and not even be able to feed ourselves, you know, as a world, even less than we are now. And that's something we have to consider and educate people about and think, actually, this is a farce, it's unrealistic. We can't all live this way, and we need to be satisfied with having less material goods, you know, and having a more egalitarian society and maybe a better, hopefully, a better social life, stronger communities, and stop chasing this dream that is unattainable for most individuals and also for the planet. So that was my comment. Thank you.
Great comment. I think the gentleman just behind her, and then there's one over here.
I just want to pick up on a point that has sort of been mentioned briefly already about social mobility. I think the way to sort of change the idea of, well, not change it, but change aspirations of people is being able to having the opportunity to represent people at the same time. I think a lot of people feel detached from society because they feel the political class doesn't represent them. And we see a lot of people in Parliament who haven't had a life outside politics. They've gone to Oxbridge, got a degree in PPE, they've gone straight into a seat in Parliament. I wonder if the panel would agree that we need to increase social mobility and also how it could be achieved. I don't know, I often think that we lack people for the trade union movement and things like that. I just wondered if anyone has any thoughts how to get sort of different aspects of society into Parliament.
Sure. Do you want to answer that? And do you have any comments on the young ladies?
For me, I would say choose our fights wisely. And when I say fights, we can't battle everything at once. So if we're going to battle poverty, we battle poverty. We can't battle benefits, although it still comes under poverty and it reflects on poverty. We have to know what part of the poverty we're going to attack first. And when I say attack, we're going to group up as one unit, whatever area you're in outside London, in London, wherever it is, and actually come together and have one voice. And that's no problem with people. Everyone wants to be the leader, or everyone has egos. That's why a lot of movements don't move. because we've got 6 egotistic people that want to mine one of those first. I'm going to challenge disability. A lot of people, no one can name me 5 people that are out there in the media that represent disabled people that are being treated badly. Because there's not a lot. And that's why a lot of people get their benefits taken away from them, because there's no one there, there's no one voice that says this needs to stop. And if we look at things like payday loans, what is a payday loan? For people at work or people on benefits? And if you look at the rise in payday loans over the past 2 years, it's gone out the roof. So if you're not allowed to have a credit card, you shouldn't be able to have a payday loan. And these are the little traps that people in poverty go to. They go to cash converters and other places to get loans that they know they won't be able to pay back. And then as the days coming back to when they have to pay, they're getting stressed. We have to no longer put the electric and gas on because we have to pay back the payday loans. And these are the things, come back to what the young lady at the back said, is living within your means. And until a lot of people know what their means are, we're going to have problems. And that's what I think one of the main causes of poverty is. Everyone wants to strive above their means. And until we live within our means, we're going to continue to have problems.
What's interesting about it, I mean, especially in reference to the first question, is that, it was almost sort of historically ironic, is that one of the things Orwell was describing in this book is that a lot of times these people that were living in this very squalid housing and had these horrible, houses falling down with damp and 11 people in 2 rooms and that sort of thing, weren't aware that anybody lived any differently. I mean, maybe the one guy who ran the mine or something did, but this is just how humanity lives. So ironically, I mean, at his point, he was faced with a world in which the opposite of what you were just saying was true, which is that people literally would put up with it because they didn't know people lived differently anywhere else. That's Wigan was how the world was, because there was limited communication and no advertising and so they weren't sitting there thinking, oh, I want to be like that celebrity. They just didn't get it. So yeah, I mean, we are in a kind of historically ironic period now where I always get very nervous when we talk about lowering aspirations, people's aspirations. I think aspirations are a good thing in general.
But there is a
ecological
case
problem.
for
Yeah, of
relative
course.
deprivation.
Yeah.
I'll just touch on the social mobility issue. I think I agree with what the person at the back said, that I think social mobility is an important aspect of bringing about change. Social mobility, I think I would link that to education, to helping people from diverse backgrounds to get out there, to get involved in politics and to help to make a change. And I think that we need to look at the education system, we need to get people mentoring people more, because I think mentoring is a key aspect of motivating and encouraging young people from disadvantaged backgrounds to achieve their best and to get out there and make a difference.